I'm Krista, I'm an addict.
I'm Gracie and I'm not, and welcome back to episode 12. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're still working towards our goal, and thank you for continuing to tune in and listen.
We talked about a few things that we were going to talk about tonight, and one of the things that I have tried out over the years is MAT, medication-assisted treatment, and I don't know the logistics to it, but I think, I would like to share my experience with trying that and just, our views on it. It works for some people. It did not work for me, just because those are medications that I abuse everything. I could abuse a Benadryl. I have abused Benadryl. So, if those of you that don't know what that is, that's like methadone, Suboxone. I'm probably not saying that right.
You are.
Doctors say Suboxone.
I think it's definitely, maybe it is Suboxone. But we'll go with Suboxone.
Okay, so on the streets they call it Suboxone. Subs. So my drug of choice would actually be methadone, and that is supposed to be used to assist someone coming off opioids. So, like I said, my experience, my intentions going into doing that were to...
So kind of how would you say it works? Like, I know you said it's, supposed to assist you, but, what is the goal of it? Besides to just, get you off drugs?
I think it's for sure, case by case, because in my past I have not used intravenously, and that's a huge thing. The reason for that, people that use IV drugs, obviously if you're using medication and being assisted by a doctor, that's harm reduction, because you're not using needles, you're not potentially being exposed to sharing needles, and that's cutting down on diseases, and so harm reduction is huge, and a lot of people do use IV. So
does it help? I guess I genuinely don't know. Does it help keep you from not being sick too? Is that kind of the goal of it?
For sure. And so when I was young, early 20s, I had really the only thing I had really used were pharmaceuticals, just pain pills, and that's all I'd used at the time. So I had tried being abstinent from drugs, I just wasn't being very successful. So someone had told me about the methadone clinic. So in my opinion, should I have gone from just using pain pills to methadone? For me, I don't think so, because I vividly remember the first time that I went through the methadone clinic, got a dose. I was higher than I had, it was way too strong, really, for what I had been abusing. However, I went in there, manipulating the system. I knew that, I had to say that I had been abusing way more than what I had been. That way they would even say that I was eligible to even come in there. You know what I mean? So, again, honesty is key in all this stuff. But, I feel my problem is I was spending, more time dope sick than I was actually high back then. And so I knew that I could go somewhere every day, and I wouldn't spend so much time laying in the bed sick. I could go every day, get that. And the thing is, a positive thing out of that was they made me start talking to a counselor, and they made me held me accountable for doing taking the medicine the correct way. I didn't do it, but and what happened to me is I started experiencing nodding out for the first time, because I didn't do that on pain pills prior to that. But as soon as I started using methadone, I was falling asleep everywhere. So I tried to counteract that and start abusing. I was prescribed Adderall at the time, and I started abusing that, and then I moved on to heavier stuff. But I wasn't ready, and I have also went to a doctor who prescribed Suboxone, and again, I abuse everything. I went in there, and the doctor had prescribed me 3 Suboxone strips a day, and that is unnecessary. No one needs needs that much.
So I actually remember, I was really young when you started using that, but I actually remember it. Like, I was super young.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't really know this because I was young at the time. So, like, whenever you were, like, prescribed those things or went to the clinics, I feel like, I think at the time, like, your family was aware because I remember you taking it one time, but, like, did you tell them then? Like what did you tell them?
I mean, at that point, I was abusing all kinds of stuff. Like, here's another positive thing about going to that. Like, I remember when I was going to a doctor and I had the medicine available, like, the criminal activity had stopped. Mm-hmm. So that is another positive thing, like, that I see. Like, before I was, doing what I had to do to obtain the drug so that I wouldn't be sick. Like, it just that whole lifestyle of, like, messing with people that, would rob you, or that you'd have to go out and steal and stuff so that you're not sick. Like, that is what it boiled down to. It wasn't even about getting high anymore. At the end, like, it was just about not being sick. So that also, like, having medicine that you pick up from the pharmacy. I'm not dope sick. I'm not stealing. I'm not, you know what I mean? So, and I had told my parents. I feel like I lied a little bit and, like, told them that it was just like a temporary thing, and in my mind I had no intentions on it being temporary. I thought that I could be on it long term. I'd still, like, and it did, like, I was more productive when I was on that compared to being in active addiction using street drugs. Like, I was more productive. I woke up every morning, I did what I needed to do. I did not work a program because, in my personal opinion, I just felt like I wasn't in my head. I think for my recovery, I need to be abstinent from everything. So I didn't go to meetings. But that's, like I said, every recovery is not the same. So someone that are on those that type of treatment, like, please come to meetings. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, like, everything's different, but in my personal experience, like, abstinence has definitely been the most successful thing that I've done. So, and that was, like, okay, it's like, speaking of medicine, like, and that's just, like, touching a little bit on that, but, like, we were talking about today, I have to go to the dentist or whatever, and, like, we were talking about, oh my gosh, what if I have to have a root canal or whatever. So, like, that's something that I have also experienced. Like, I had a C-section while I was in recovery, and obviously, like, they prescribed
3.
What?
3 of them.
Yeah. So they prescribed pain pills. That is my drug of choice. I know the first time that I did that, I was in drug court. Like, this is like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And I was really torn between, I'm like, oh my gosh, do I consider that, like, I'm having to use pain medicine? I mean, I was really tore up. Like, the doctor was like, you have to go home and take some of this, like, in order to heal. But how that ended up being a successful thing, one, I had the accountability of drug court at the time. And then, number 2, like, I set up with my mom, who is very strict and accountable. While I was actually hurting and taking pain medicine, I slept. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't give me that same effect in my mind. So when I knew it was the time to, like, all right, flush them, let's get rid of them, is when it did affect my mind different. Like, like, it made me more, like, alert and awake, and okay, it's time. Like, I feel different.
But you had open communication with her to help you, like, almost like her be in charge of them.
Like, I remember when she flushed them down the toilet, and I was mortified. Like almost like, oh my God, there goes, like, even if I'm not using them, like, ching, 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 like, how much money that was, like, street. But yeah, and I mean, I think that's never gonna be something I don't think about. Yeah. But yeah, just that accountability, having procedures and stuff is a part of life. Like, I
think that's a hard thing for an addict, though, especially, like, being sober, even for years down the road. Like, that's a hard thing to wrap your mind around. Because there's always, I mean, with anything in life, there's always the what if, so that's, like, a huge...
Like, what if it triggers that mental obsession, and you're, it's off with the races. Yeah. Now, granted, if I have to have, like, a procedure or something in the future, Like, I am 100% going to try with, I mean, ibuprofen 800 goes a long way when you're sober. Like, before, I remember in, like, active addiction, if I'm like, Tylenol ain't going to do nothing. Like, when you're sober, like, an ibuprofen will make everything stop hurting. Like, and that's the difference. It's just your mindset. Yeah, just that accountability and support. You know, I've had friends that have had, you know, procedures and they've done great afterwards. They, you know, and then another thing that I struggled with when I had to do that was, like, do I still have the same sobriety date? You know what I mean? And that's just something you have to talk to your sponsor about it. Or, no, I didn't change my sobriety date. I was doing it for the right reasons. I did not get high off the drug. Like, you know, you're gonna encounter that. I hope that I don't have to have any of that stuff, because I don't want to take a chance on taking off, you know. Because it's all it takes, one. But, yeah, just got to keep a strong support group for sure with that. So, although, like, I do think there are lots of positive things from medication-assisted treatment, like, I want to also, like, because there's going to be, like, obviously there's going to be parents who are just starting off with their kids who are going to be told that that's, like, that's the next avenue. Like, if you're getting high, like, let's try this. And that might work for them. You know, I don't want to seem, like, narrow-minded.
It's definitely something you need to be aware of both sides of.
Yeah. And the number one, like, the withdrawals from those medications, like, you should not. I didn't do it the right way, so I just stopped cold turkey lots of times. And, like, the physical effect will have you doing crazy stuff. Like, I know whenever I was using methadone, like, on the street, like, whenever I would run out or not have, like, the person I was getting it from didn't have it, I mean, I would do crazy stuff. I mean, I was almost like an animal. Like, I was so sick and I needed whatever I needed to make myself suck. I mean, because the physical pain from that medication is just intense. And the reason for that is there's half-life with methadone. So, like, it's going to last a lot longer than, like, heroin or pain pills. Or, like, I mean, I could get dosed and I'm going to still feel it, like, the next day. That's how potent that is. And so when those, I mean, like, obviously if it sticks around my body that long, like, so are the physical withdrawals. Like, I came off that cold turkey methadone. I came off like 120 milligrams of methadone cold turkey in a treatment center. And when I tell you that it was the most, like, excruciating, painful, horrible withdrawal that I've ever had, detox that I've ever had in my life, like, I'm not even exaggerating. I didn't sleep for 13 days, like, not 1 second of sleep. I mean, by the 8th day, my pupils were, like, this big around, and I mean, I felt nuts. And I remember them just telling me, like, your body's going to give out, like, you're going to have to crash eventually. And that's what happened. And I remember, like, one of the staff members, like, I mean, they really were really good to me. I mean, she would tell me about, I don't even know what the type of, what this is called, but, like, she would have me, like, because I couldn't sleep, so, like, at nighttime, like, the whole dorm room would be, like, asleep, and I'm, like, staring at the ceiling, like, freaking out with a winter jacket on, but I'm sweating, like, terrible. But she would tell me to, like, visualize, like, being on a beach or your favorite place. What do you smell? What do you hear? And, like, if it weren't for that, like, therapeutic, almost, I guess it's like meditation almost. Like, if it weren't for that, like, I would have lost my mind. I mean, not really, but, you know, I mean, like, felt like I was dying. So, and I had another client there with me who, there was only, like, one other person that had came off that stuff cold turkey in the center. And if it weren't for her, like, she would come down there and visit me while I was in, like, the first part of while I was in detox, and, like, be like, this is what you're gonna feel tomorrow. And, like, it literally, everything she told me was exactly what I felt. And, like, she has since passed away due to addiction, and that was, like, that was really hard on me, because if it weren't for her, like, I would have not got through that. And we became so close because of that common, like what we went through. Yeah. So yeah, the detox off that is awful. Another thing that I abuse, my drug of choice was methadone, but there were times that I went to the Suboxone doctor. So I don't know if anybody is aware of, that's watching, is aware of precipitated withdrawals, but it's probably, again, top to one or two worst things that I've ever experienced in my life. And that is, so if you are on an opiate, you have to, I think there's the movie 4 Days. Isn't that the name of it?
I don't know.
That new movie where she's trying to get off opiates, but you have to have like a time frame of when you're off opiates before you can start Suboxone. So, and methadone hangs on. So I would abuse methadone and then go to the Suboxone doctor. And for me personally, I had to wait three full days before I could take Suboxone. Or what happens is there's that naloxone in the drug, and so like it takes everything. I mean, it immediately throws you into withdrawals if there's anything still, on those receptors. Like it literally takes it. So when I tell you that it is even if you weren't going through withdrawals at the time, like it is the most intense thing that I've ever experienced in my life. So one thing in particular, like an instant that I remember, I was at work. I had got my Suboxone prescription, and I was on day 2 of methadone withdrawal, and I thought, I feel terrible right now, but like that stuff had hung on so long, it was still there. So I'm like, it's been long enough, I can go ahead and take it, because I was sick at work. So I take the Suboxone, I think everything's good, and then it hits me. Like my arms start getting goosebumps, I start feeling like sweaty, but I'm not, like I'm cold chills, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Like I knew what it was. Like my vision, you were like not even, you're coherent, but like you're like, it's awful. I had to like go in front of my boss, and I was like, I remember trying to tell her that like I didn't feel good, and I had been like to the physical eye, like I was fine prior to that, but so I went from like before lunch, like seeming halfway normal, to I'm standing in front of her, I'm like, like I couldn't even get my words out. That's how bad it is. And I remember driving home. I had no business driving home, like so sick, like, and I remember going straight up to my room, and I didn't move for 2 days. And the show Scared Straight was blaring on my TV for 2 days, and like,
did it scare you?
No,
like, it should have.
I hear that. Like, anything about that show, like, it makes my whole body cringe, because, like, it takes me right back to that core memory of, like, ugh, like...
a bad nostalgia.
I mean, terrible. So, obviously, I haven't had pleasant experiences, but most of them were self-inflicted. Like, I didn't listen. I didn't do what I was told to. Like, I abused other drugs while I was on the medicine, so... obviously it didn't work for me, but I think that is, like, in my experience with, like, dealing with people that are also on that, like, you have to, like, therapy is such a good thing, because, like, obviously those criminal behaviors don't stop, and those treatments do, like, they require you to, like, go, like, do certain things, so that's another positive thing, like, say you've been in the street, like you're going to be introduced to like some sort of recovery too. So, and I might not have all the facts straight on that, but that's what I have went through personally. I abused everything, programs, medicine. I mean, it got to the point where you could go to the pharmacy. Like I was still in active addiction. Like I didn't have a job, but I was on MAT. So, I couldn't afford this is before like insurance really paid for Suboxone, and like the pharmacy would let me pick up 1 or 2 pills, because that's all I could afford at the time. So I would like be at the pharmacy every day picking up pills, and that is embarrassing. Like, it's so, they know what you're about to do. So so then I would abuse all my medicine and then have to buy it off the street. So it just wasn't a good thing for me.
Yeah, I obviously don't have any, like, personal experience on it, and I can't really speak on it from my experience from seeing you go through it, because I feel like even though I knew, like, you were using throughout my life, I never knew what you were using, so I can't really speak on that. But I will say, I was just thinking about this, actually. In class, I've learned this semester that 3 of the most abused drugs are oxycodone, hydrocodone, and methadone.
Yeah.
Seriously, they are. That's, 3 most,
Methadone's on there? Normally that's not on.
And that's, I remember finding that interesting, because I knew what that was, Right. I was like, like, but yeah, I will say that. I just think you have to definitely, like, it can be positive, but you definitely have to think about the negatives of what it could be too. Yeah. And maybe if you, like, you know, like have a child that's thinking about doing it, like you were saying earlier, definitely like it needs to be something you're open about with them, and like just very contemplate it before you decide to go all in and do it.
And I just feel like it needs to be, like, if you're doing that and you're trying and going to therapy and treatment, and great, just be aware of the signs if they're still abusing, like like, you know, like I was clearly abusing that. My family knew it, so they discouraged it, rightfully so. But again,
like it's also something you can probably hide really easily because it's easy to take.
well, I mean, you're not having to like break it down in a line and snort it.
That's what I mean. Like, it was easy. Like, that's how I knew you took it, because I remember, because it melts in your mouth, right? Yeah. Like, I remember you taking it. That's what I mean. Like, it's something easy to hide.
Yeah. Obviously, it wasn't. You knew.
I mean, yeah. And see, that's the thing, too. Like, as I got older and realized, I remember, this is actually a story I've thought about saying before, but one time I remember this was like 3 years ago, whatever, back when you were still in addiction. Anyways, we were sitting in the kitchen, and I remember I remember that day being really skeptical. Like, I hadn't been skeptical until this day. And I remember thinking you were taking it. And I was like, I could feel like my insides like just like drop. Like, I was just like upset, you know? Yeah. And so I remember us sitting in the kitchen and you asking me, you said something like, would you tell me if you knew I was using, or if you thought I was using? And I said, I always know when you're using, but I would never be able to tell you straight up to your face. That's what I told you that day.
I must have been using, because I don't remember that.
Yeah, you were. I mean, you were. Like, that's what I mean. I remember seeing you take methadone or whatever that day. But, and that was always my downfall, too. Like, I mean, maybe as I was, like, older, like, obviously I hope we never have to go through that again. But, like, I could never call you out. Like, it was never easy for me to call you out.
Yeah. And that's such a hard thing. Like, do you really know what to do? Because I know there were times where I was in the mindset, if somebody would have called me out, like, I would have took off and not looked back.
Right.
You know?
And I think that's what I battled a long time, because, I mean, I've talked about before how kind of like you can talk you 100%, it doesn't matter. You can know. I feel like I could physically have seen you. I mean, obviously that time I did. I knew you were taking something, but like, it's so easy to talk yourself out of it, but it's always the what ifs, like, well, what if it's just this? Or, like, what's going to happen if I do bring this to light? Like, what if it's just one time, you know? And, like, I knew in my head that wasn't true. But, like, what is going to happen if I were to, like, who do I go to? What is going to happen if I go to your parents? Like, I don't know, you know? Like, are you going to run off? Like, what's going to happen? Are you going to end up in jail? Like, you just never know.
Yeah. And, you know, I sit here and say, like, open communication and just be honest. Like, that sounds good now because I've done a lot of work on myself. Yeah. Like, that is... But back then, there was no, like, I didn't allow any open communication because I still was, like, struggling with, like, people pleasing and trying to make everybody happy, so I hid it. Like, I lived 2 different lives. I kept a mask on, like it just, But
I think that's why you can sit here and say that now is, like, why you know open communication would have been the best route for you, because the things that you didn't work, you know what I mean? So you can sit here and say, like, if I would have been open with my communication on all ends, you know, not just some things here and there, then you could have been more.
When I just thought, like, so I think when I was, like, living with my parents, whenever I was in and out of addiction, you know, like, whenever, I mean, I'm just disgusting whenever I'm using, like, I have, like, no energy, because I spent more time dope sick than I did health, like, high. Yeah. That's the whole reason why those behaviors were there. Like, I mean, couldn't even get off the couch, you know, and to shower was like
a job.
Yeah. So there were times where I became resentful because, like, my mom I saw this, like, somebody else, like, speak on this, like, my mom would be like, God, you got all this laundry, you know, and here I'm literally battling, like, trying not to kill myself, like, that seemed so trivial at the time. So then I became resentful, like, you're worried about, like, but I didn't tell her those things. You know what I mean?
Like, she had no clue what you were going through.
So I was resentful before I even gave her the chance to be there for me. Like, and I think back to those times, like, my mom coming at me about, like, why do you have all this laundry? Like, she was probably really wanting to know why. Like, not so much about the laundry, like, what is wrong? Like, but it just nobody really knows what to do, you know?
That's the hard part is, like, that's the best advice I can give, too. Like, if you can call them out in a respectful way, but, like, it's always, that's the thing, too. Like, I feel like that day when we were sitting in the kitchen and you asked me that and I said that was almost me hoping you knew I knew. You know what I mean?
I knew you knew.
Yeah. But, like, that's just the thing. Like, little things like that, or, like, your mom asking you, like, what is this? And she really meant deeper, like, what is this? You know, like, it's deeper than, it's just hard. I think it's just, even though, like, I mean, obviously, like, you would relapse, so it wasn't, like, the first time us, like, going through that. It's just, it's never easy to grasp the situation at all, ever.
Yeah. Because, like, the drugs are the issue at hand and what, you know, no one obviously likes. But, like, there's, from my personal, there's always something else going on underneath that. Like, I mean, I was literally miserable and sad, and I was sad. Like,
I don't want to say it's even like that, like, you find out and you're like, it's not even the disappointment, because I've never felt that. Like, I've never felt, like, disappointed in you. It's just, like, it's the sadness, really. Like, it's the sadness for you to know, like, it's like you can get through this. Like, we know you can, you know? So it's just hard. It's hard to grasp.
And I think, so, like, I think it would be, like, what is the right thing to do? But, like, looking back, if, like, my parents, and they had done it once or twice, you know, like, sat down and just said, like, what can we do for you? What are you willing to do? Like, are you willing to get help? Let's find a solution to this. Mm-hmm. Now, there were times where I was not open to any of that. Yeah. Because I didn't think, you know, when I was on Suboxone, I thought, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. You know, like, I just was not hearing it. Yeah. But, like, that is where, I mean, like, the line of communication needs to be open, is, like, sit down and don't, like, someone, like, and we can share this because we've learned from it. Like, there are times where, like, my mom and dad would cut, like, why are you doing this? Don't do this. You don't need to be doing this. You need to be doing this. Like, and so then I shut down, you know what I mean?
Thank you guys for watching. We hope you enjoyed. This is just our opinions, our perspective, as always, but we thought it was an important topic to discuss.
Keep coming back.
Keep coming back. Bye.